How do you do, ladies and gents? Welcome to another edition of Tyler's Talks. My name is Tyler McNamer, and this is my dad, Jody McNamer.
Hi.
So for those of you that are new, welcome. I just want to start off with a few introductions. So my name's Tyler. I'm actually the author of the book Population 1: Autism, Adversity, and Will to Succeed. And also, I recently released my next book called Becoming One: Autism, Adolescence, and the Transition to Adulthood. And basically, what these books are mainly about is what it's like to have autism in the first-person perspective. The first book is mostly about during high school. The second book is mostly towards adolescence and the transition to adulthood. So feel free to check them out in case if you're interested and enjoy a good read. And let's learn more about a little bit about you.
Pretty simple story. My name is Jody McNamer, aka Tyler's dad. So we're going to be able to share some things today from a parent's perspective and also from a child or now a young adult's perspective about autism, having autism as well. You want to kind of go over what we're going to be talking about?
Sure, absolutely. So we're going to start off by going for five different things, five different key. What's the term? Key ingredients, key topics. Excuse me. That's a thing. Sometimes I forget my words. So bear with me. So we're going to go with five key topics. The specific topics that we're going to talk about. Number one is acceptance. Learn to manage your child with autism rather than to fix them. So that's number one. Number two is a child's perspective. Like, why do they do this? What makes them do the things that they are currently doing? So we're just going to offer some relief on understanding why they do that. That's number two. Number three is effective techniques. So hopefully we will do our best to share certain techniques and strategies that make autism much more workable, such as stopping meltdowns and increasing everyone's confidence, those who have autism and those who care for autism. Number four is social acceptance, and that is finding supports from friends for your child and for you. So not just friends, but also classmates and teachers and you, such as the family members. And finally, number five is what we call self-care. The importance of the importance of personal efforts and making them work. Well, that's what we strive for. And in Autismworks is to make everything much more workable for those who have it and for those who care for those who have it.
Yeah.
So let's get started.
So this is a fully interactive session. So you'll see along the right-hand side of your screen is a chat box. So any question that you have, also we've set the chat box to private. And the reason why we did that is that, oftentimes questions are of sensitive nature. And so we want you to feel that this is a safe place to be able to answer those questions. Realize, we're not doctors, we're not accountants, we're not lawyers, we aren't any of those things. We're simply a father and a son that is going to share of Tyler's story, one of taking himself from a 6-year-old that really just started forming words, and then at age 12 started speaking in sentences, and then now, at 26 years old, speaking in front of tens of thousands of people, both online and live and in person. Also published his first book at wrote it at 17, published at 19, and then his second book last year. His book currently is Amazon bestseller. You can go check that out. Or if you want an autograph copy, you're welcome to go to his website called Autismworks.com. Probably got emails from that. And you can get copies of both of his books. As a father, had you told me, when Tyler was 4, 5, 6 years old, and even later, that my son would become an international best-selling author and speaker on the topic of autism and owner of Autismworks. And I just have the privilege of being able to help and support him in that business. I would have said as a dad that, man, my son can do anything because that's what fathers do and what they think of their children. But there were some pretty significant cognitive issues that potentially would prevent that. And that on top of there were teachers and counselors and therapists and speech therapists, occupational therapists that all said, that Tyler would only achieve certain things, or we should expect certain things. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a very authentic conversation about setting expectations. And we're going to talk specifically about, the day that I stopped trying to fix my son was the day that I became a dad to him. And we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly.
And the beautiful.
Yeah, and without a doubt. And how we can help you help your child or grandchild or a person that you care for really find their unique ability. And that's really important, because we spend a lot of time talking about our children's disability or trying to fix them, when really, if we concentrate on the things that they're very good at, some amazing things happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get right into it. You want to get us kicked off?
All right. So let's get things kicked off. So just a reminder that this is also interactive. So any questions that you have, we will be able to read them online and also answer them online. So feel free. It's right over there at the right side of the screen. So it's pretty. So this will be fun. I enjoy these kind of things. So let's get started. We'll just go with the parts. Number one is the acceptance area, the key topic, and learning how to, like you said, manage to manage people with autism rather than to fix them. It's one thing I always say very confidently is there are no limits, only adjustments. And that's basically what it is when it comes to children with autism, is that there are no limits, absolutely none, zero, only just adjustments here and there. The things that make things work, and that's workable for children who have autism and those people who care for children who have autism. So that's what we're kind of mostly focusing on too. It's the acceptance parts. So without further ado, the acceptance part, I would say is like the first step, because it's one of those things where children are still trying to figure themselves out. It may start from 2 years old all the way to even teenhood. Still trying to figure things out. Even when you're a young adult, you're still trying to figure things out.
Or an adult, yeah.
Or an adult, absolutely. It's I think it's pretty much a common thing for that kind of topic, and it's one of those things where we gotta remind ourselves that we're just not alone at this journey too, and we can just work on it together.
Yeah. And I think, too, acceptance is a big thing from a parent's perspective, because, I remember when Tyler, first got his diagnosis, it was kind of like a bomb went off, and, immediately, I guess it's been said, that men really have two emotions, they're hungry or they're mad. And, that energy that I had was, I've got to get about researching everything and developing every system and helping him in whatever I could do in order to make him normal. And, really that, as we developed this conversation, really as a parent, all I wanted was for Tyler to be accepted. And I knew that acceptance was going to be very difficult for him, because Tyler was different, and being able to accept that difference was very difficult. And really for me, as again, we developed this discussion, didn't come until very much later on in life. And I've got a lot of regrets over that as well. Mm-hmm. And those were, real serious challenges to our relationship. Too, absolutely. Is the acceptance portion.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, before we go on, can I take a moment to say hi to Mom? On
Yeah,
the camera?
absolutely. Yep.
Hey, Mom. I just saw you on chat, and I just want to say hi.
Which is super cool.
Hey, thank you. So basically, without further ado, let's take some questions. Right over here is reads, our high functioning son is very closed off and not open to watching this or learning about others on the spectrum or getting support. Is this common? Yeah, this I always kind of get those things where they end with "is this common?" that kind of thing too, and right, and it's okay to ask that kind of thing. It's rightfully so. It's it's one of those. So let's get started. So not wanting to watch certain things or just wanting to hide a lot of things. When I was kind of into those scenarios, the main reason for me anyway, I know it's different for everyone else, but the main reason why I didn't want to be involved in all kind of stuff, number one, is because it's too new. It's way off my system, way off my my main what I call the secret schedule, basically, kind of thing too. So in this secret schedule, it becomes so autonomous, basically too. You expect to wake up a certain hour. You expect to go to school a certain hour, and school is supposed to be the same over and over again. But when it comes to something new, like paying attention to like a movie or new system, that kind of thing, it becomes kind of challenging too. And that's when back then I was kind of the most least flexible person in the class, and had to work on that too. So what I would like to say is we got to learn how to understand the importance of understanding other people's secret schedules as well. To understand that, hey, they want their secret schedules to be a success too, involving. I want everyone in the class to be their best behavior. That comes from the teacher, kind of thing, for example. And gotta learn that kind of stuff. The one thing I would like to encourage, as a matter of fact, is just pretty much talk about this secret schedule kind of thing too. Like, for example, if you're a parent, you can ask your child, what is in your secret schedule? What do you want in a day? What do you expect in a day? And I think that'll be pretty good. So we can understand and try to work on how we can bend and twist of these secret schedules that make it much more workable. So when it comes to watching something or watching that you have to pay attention, always got to remember, and we've talked about this too, is that we always encourage just 10 minutes. That's all. All you need is all we need from you is 10 minutes, and then after those 10 minutes are up, you can go back to whatever it is that you like to do.
Yeah, and I think from a parent's perspective too, flexibility is very challenging. So as Tyler was growing up, as he mentioned, he was very inflexible. So how do you develop flexibility? And the answer is at a very little at a time. And oftentimes we're asked, well, what do I do when my child melts down? And the response is that it's really, really important that you understand what the factors are in having that meltdown occur. And oftentimes the factors are because there is a deviation of routine. And this affects, children, adults, young adults, all differently. Some have a varying degrees, of course, of flexibility. But if Tyler changed from his schedule, there was a high likelihood that he was going to melt down. And maybe
something's kind of right here.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important, because parents will look at it and say, well, this child's just being a bad child, or they want their way, and just that this is it. They're completely inflexible. And the reality of it is that our children and young adults and adults actually just don't have the capacity to make that change, because their sensory becomes so overloaded with the change that they want that same routine. That's why you'll see they eat only certain foods. They will only go certain places. They will only experience certain experiences, because anything beyond that is just too much for them. And so we'll talk about some additional strategies that can help you. And one of the key points is just, again, little by little, these little connections. You can just do it for a minute, if you can do it for 2 minutes, if you can do it for 10 minutes. And I think the other thing too would be, especially in this particular case, not wanting to watch a program like this, perhaps that's actually because they do feel isolated and alone. It is, Tyler, I think it's, I've heard you say over and over again, something to the effect of that it's amazing what a person will do to be accepted. And I can't remember how you said that. Like,
it's basically on the lines of you'll be surprised on what people do for acceptance.
Yeah, and that's what it is. You would be surprised what people will do. And this is the desperation that happens, especially as they leave middle school and into high school. This becomes a very desperate situation. And we'll talk about that, and about, teen depression and those things. But it is that level of frustration. And if you can, in these kinds of programs, just talk about how this will help you not feel so alone. And oftentimes they don't want to watch a program like this because they do feel isolated. They do feel alone. And that's one of the real, as I see working with families, across the country, that's been a huge benefit of what Tyler brings, not only his books, but his programs and such. And we'll actually show you one of those programs a little bit later on that we found. It's almost kind of like the YouTube of autism. But one of the biggest things is helping children not feel so alone, in addition to all these strategies that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. I just want to say, too, that the whole idea of acceptance is that, I kind of came to the ultimate conclusion saying that you can't be accepted by others if you cannot accept yourself first. It has to be the number one priority first. So you need to figure out how to accept yourself, while of course being your best self, as a matter of fact, too. Just real quick is that some people kind of mistake the whole idea of accepting yourself, and it means that you have to feel like you can be a big meaning and all that kind of stuff. So like, I'm just being myself, but no, that's not what I support. I just there's a wide variety of children with autism that generally want to be good people, and I really do see that. Honestly, they want to be good kids, and they are good kids. Absolutely, I've seen it firsthand back in school, and they just need some help, and sometimes they're just a little afraid to sometimes ask for help, or afraid to figure out what to do next, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that is such an extraordinary point, because our children and young adults and adults that have autism genuinely want to do the things that are asked of them, right? They are great kids. They are great young adults. They are great adults. They genuinely want to please, but oftentimes they just don't have the capacity to do things in a way that's expected of them. Because we're coming from the perspective of, well, we see other kids or we see other young adults do these things, but they don't have the capacity to do it. Now, it's not an excuse, but it puts additional responsibility on us as parents to determine how we can little by little get them into a mainstream, so ultimately they can start providing for themselves, gaining independence, but they have to have those skills. And it all starts with the ability to manage sensory. So that acceptance comes through what we would call typical behavior, societal behavior. But unless you can get through the desensitizing of the senses first, it's just not going to happen. those outbursts, Tyler, for the first, couple of years or 3 years, when he was 3, 4 years old, I mean, he would jump on the trampoline rhythmically because that was the way that he could start desensitizing. He would spend time, it's called wrapping in a burrito, where he was kind of a weighted blanket, and he would have consistent pressure throughout so he could understand how to desensitize on touch. What were some of the other things that we worked together on to start desensitizing you in these steps?
I really do enjoy the trampoline, and,
Yeah.
and nowadays I can just go to one of those big trampolines where I can just do awesome tricks on a snowboard. But in all seriousness, next to the trampoline and also the being wrapped up in a burrito just for coiled and to be holding all that kind of stuff. One of the other things that too was the most simplest of things, and that was to walk around at the park. Mm-hmm. I remember, way back in the day where we actually walked at this park, and there was a beach right next to it too, and I guess it's also the scent of the sea kind of thing too. That kind of just, it's nice. It smells good and it feels good, and the breeze against the shore and all that kind of thing, and a very simple little park area too that you can play on. I totally remember those things, but yeah, just simply just walking around in nature kind of thing too, and just by yourself with parents, and it becomes it's just a good way to restart or reset, I guess you can say.
Well, and I think think about it in terms of, so like Tyler just mentioned, the smell of the sea, the rhythmic of the waves, and realize that Tyler, we didn't just drive down in the car and hop out of the car and start walking on the beach and, playing. No, it was progression, because, left to, Tyler's design, he would love to probably most likely just stay at the house and stay in his room and do his particular things. But it was venturing, these little baby steps of venturing out that helped him really start to develop the management skills for sensory. Now, this is going to be different for your child or grandchild as well, or the person that you care for. And there's an interesting question, here that says, can you talk about stimming and why this happens? Because this is part of the coping mechanism of this sensory. So yeah, tell us about stimming.
Oh, absolutely. Which leads us to topic number 2, and that is child's perspective. Yeah. Why do they do that? And so that's what we're going to talk about. Why do they do this? And for this appropriate question, it's happened to be stimming. And why do they stim? Why do they do that? It looks odd. It looks kind of out there now, kind of thing. Well, the news is that I actually kind of do that sometimes too. Today, even way back in the day too, it was so obvious. But stimming kind of just comes on the lines of being in control of the situation, and the way to do that is to do such moves. Like even sometimes today, I would actually like even today, just right now, you can notice it, but I even just use my index finger to go across my shirt, that kind of thing, and next to it being feeling so good, but it was just a way to be in control of the situation, and it's a socially acceptable kind of thing to do. Even when I do meetings too, I secretly stim sometimes. It's not out there, but it's just the simple idea of stroking your index finger against the fabric of your shirt. And way back then, it was actually more in terms of lines of playing with my hair a little bit too. I used to grow out my hair quite a bit. It's like, let my hair grow a little longer so I can twirl it around and such. And that was just the main reason why is because I just wanted to be in control of everything, so I don't run out of the classroom and start having meltdowns and stuff. And such a stimulus like that really actually helps. and it goes from something that's more outrageous to less outrageous kind of thing too. It just goes from the building blocks of what's socially acceptable, that kind of thing. That's not distracting towards other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, from a parent's perspective, here's the reality of it. Our children with autism, our young adults with autism, and even adults with autism are going to stim. It's just the way it is. Got to accept it. And the key strategy is to teach our children to have socially appropriate stimming. And oftentimes that's done with a fidget. If you watch Tyler speak live or on a, where he's standing in a studio where he'll give online presentations, you'll notice that he also has fidgets as well. So like he has a fit meter that he uses, which is just a Nintendo fit meter.
It's just a little toy kind of thing that's like a circle and sure, it counts your steps and all that, and the calories being burned and all that kind of stuff. It's a cool gadget, but I kind of just use it more as a toy kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's just something to play around with and such.
And you'll also see, Tyler used to, kind of he would spin his. Hair on his arm. He talks about having his hair long. We'll get into haircuts in just a bit because you may be experiencing some challenges with haircuts, and we did too, and we'll give you some strategies to deal with that. So on the whole topic of stimming, it is going to happen. And so how can you just make those things kind of socially appropriate? So how did you progress from, the stemming to where you would, hit your hand or, all of those, stimming even has the form of headbutting other kids. You would chew on staples. There's
I used to eat nails.
Yeah, eating nails, not a good idea. But those are all this reality of being able to concentrate on some activity or some feeling or touch in order to be able to deal with the surroundings. So you're going to see stimming go up as the environment becomes more difficult to deal with from a sensory perspective. So these are the indications that you can look at, from your in your child, that when you see that happening, more stimming, rapid eye movements, we learned to start watching for those things, because we knew if we didn't take him out of that environment, that ultimately it is going to end up in a meltdown. And a lot of people will say, okay, well, meltdowns are because of our child, and their child maybe is being unruly or whatever that may be. Well, the reality of it is, as parents, we need to take responsibility because we've put our child in that circumstance. And there's some times where you can't not do that. I mean, that's just the reality, but you also have to realize that those are going to be the consequences. And it's just something that we have to manage. But if you can progressively start desensitizing, that will help.
All right.
As well.
Very good. That's a very good way of putting it. We're actually doing some questions by cards, so that's why we're looking at it. It's totally from you, just to let you know. So actually this works out pretty good that way. I'm not looking towards over there. So one of the question reads, this one's for me. It says, Tyler, were you ever self-conscious going to speech therapy? If so, how can a parent make their child more at ease? That's a great question. Just to let you know, I love speech therapy. Yeah, speech therapy to me, it felt like a really good, safe place to be. For example, it's a bit of a smaller room. It's just only me and the teacher. It's quiet, and so there's actually, if I can remember correctly, there was like some stuffed animals in there too, which is pretty nice. And I really like animals. I'm definitely a self-proclaimed zoologist. But let's talk about animals. So why don't we? So this speech therapy. The reason why it felt so good is because I felt safe. The teacher was very well understanding. She knows. Hey, we're just hey, I know you need some help, but let's make this fun and make this a fun little activity and all that kind of stuff. It honestly feels like a more play more than it is to learn, in the sense that it is all about to learn, but it feels like play in a way. Like for example, learning difference between acceptable and unacceptable behavior. That felt like a game to me a little bit too. So to kind of understand the basics between those two polar opposites, and yeah, speech therapy was pretty fun. I learned quite a lot. I actually learned a lot of flexibility too, because I remember there was a substitute teacher at speech therapy, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? but I didn't totally freak out. I was just more confused, kind of thing. But the substitute, she was equally very nice too, and polite, and I was like, oh cool, this will be fun, and it kind of just kind of learned one thing at a time when it comes to flexibility, and learn how to do speech in a fun kind of way.
Yeah, and I think a couple of key takeaways on that as well. The use of video in speech therapy was incredible, for Tyler, and here's why.
It was hard too, and the reason why it was so hard is because the unexpected behaviors on the videos was just so hard to watch.
Yeah,
I was like, take it away, but it's working. that means it's a bad behavior. I'm sorry, I just thought about that, and I just had to say something.
Yeah. So let me put it in context for you. Really, video again. I'm just going to break down how you can use video. Number one, you may wonder why your child will watch a movie and then rewind it and watch it again and rewind it. Well, it's how they're developing their words. It's how they're developing this human interaction as well. They're studying those things. And Tyler, we won't go into it in this section because, we literally have hundreds of questions here. But it's their way of being able to learn and understand social behavior. Now, when you use video in the classroom, not only is it video where you have two people doing that social interaction, but just like Tyler said, having them on video going through what would be appropriate and inappropriate conversation or activity or action, and then also what would be so it was appropriate, inappropriate, it was expected and unexpected, right?
Yeah.
Those were the big things.
That was the big things.
And so when you could point out what the appropriate, inappropriate would be and what the expected and unexpected would be, when they actually see that visually, and that's the real thing, right? If we're talking in words, like even to this day, Tyler gets exhausted when we're explaining concepts, but if we can draw those things out, all of a sudden, that really helps. So that'll help in speech therapy. And another question that we had on that is AAC devices, which are devices that someone can use in order to communicate, pressing buttons and things.
I was about to ask what an AAC device was.
Yeah, so Tyler didn't use one, although Tyler's created 5 different characters that we base that he bases his social stories on, and Sally, who's one of the characters,
happens to have one of those devices.
Exactly, has an AAC device. So I encourage you that if you haven't downloaded the social stories on autismworks.com, definitely do that. They'll really, really help. And that's why we designed Sally, was so that, those that have AAC devices would feel comfortable with those social stories. And they really do help. We've seen a lot of families that they help. So that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, you want to take a turn with those cue cards?
Yeah.
Those cards.
So this was a good one, I think, for both of us. It says, what should I do to calm my child when she becomes violent? So you want to talk about what I did? When you would melt down and become violent.
Well,
and then also what happens to you when you have a meltdown. I think this is some interesting insight.
Well, take it from my dad because he was military raised, and but
it's not necessarily a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing, but
no. But I just always kind of keep that in mind. Literally, even back then, because when I did have meltdown, I actually kind of relied on my dad to kind of help save me in such a way. For example, when something goes wrong, it's like I'm kicking and screaming. One thing that Dad would do, which is, by the way, the strongest man I know, he would actually learn how to surprise attack and then just grab me, full body and just squeeze harder than a bear, and that would actually help. Goes towards the muscles, and not to the point where you're cracking bones or anything, but literally it's visually it's like you're squeezing all the stimulus out like a toothpaste kind of thing, and then it comes to a point where I'm no longer kicking and screaming. I stay very calm. Sometimes even don't forget how to walk because I'm trying to figure out what just happened.
Yeah. And meltdowns are violent. You'll hear Tyler talk about, literally, as he describes a meltdown, is like just real quick, 15, 20 seconds. How do you describe what happens to you when a meltdown occurs?
When a meltdown occurs, the short of all of this is basically something else takes full control, and you don't know what the heck is going on. Everything comes to a blank. And it sounds like something out of a horror film, which basically it kind of feels like it too. It's like something else that takes full control, and you just feel like you're faster and stronger and tougher, and even when I bend a certain way, I didn't even feel it. It becomes real scary. It really does. So that's why we had to take control, and then after all that happens, I just feel so ashamed for the next 24 hours. Literally, I just want to hide from the world.
Yeah, and you've got to really get that right. Meltdowns are not temper tantrums, and you've got to keep. You've got to really remember that. And that's exactly what we do to control the situation. You just have to hug them and hang on until it subsides, because they do lose consciousness basically, and they also do become super strong as well. And that's just part of this adrenaline. And it all comes from, just like Tyler said, they've got to release all the sensory. They are at their limit. They've been over their limit. And then ultimately, so the key to meltdowns is got to watch for the signs and just don't go there. Remove them from the stimulus. And by the way, the stimulus can be sight, sound, smells. And so if your child does melt down, just go back and rewind what happened, in that situation to do that. So,
all right. I got a good question. It says, did Tyler go to public school? Yes, I sure did. I went to public school over at Captain Charles Wilkes Elementary. And I sure did. I went to preschool all the way to fourth grade, and then I went to intermediate school, which is basically kind of elementary 2.0 basically, and then middle school and high school. So yep, I definitely went to public school.
Yeah, and to comment on that as well, we as a family, both Tyler's mom and I, felt that it was important that he was in a mainstream classroom, but there was huge accommodations, right? So Tyler actually had a paraprofessional with him his entire school career, actually all the way through high school. He also then spent 3 years in the adult living program. 2 years or 3? Yeah, 3 years until you were 21, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Mom, if you're still around, how long did I went to adult living program?
Yeah, I think it was 2 to 3 years. And so those accommodations, and then also inside of that, he was removed from the classroom, right, for speech therapy, occupational therapy, and then also, regularly, there were some pretty significant situations like head bunting and biting and, standing on top of his desk and screaming.
Oh, yes.
And then also, literally just would get up and run out of the classroom. And when you think about it, he would get up and run out of the classroom because he was overwhelmed. It's not because he wanted to get out of there, those kinds of things. And in a previous webinar that we did, this is one of 3, I thought you did a really great job explaining why that was.
Yeah, thanks. Best I could, anyway.
Yeah. So if you get a chance to watch that replay, it's probably available for you, or we'll send out an email on it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Potty training tips. This is a big one. I'm just gonna.
I just brought a Game Boy with me.
Yeah, well, and that's an interesting one, right? And that was a distraction tool. We actually have a whole course on potty training that we're going to be releasing next month.
Yeah, or Game Gear, as they call it from Sega.
But some of the highlights of that are, this is all about sensory, right? And when our children are trying to void, that's not great sensory. The other thing is that just the long and the short of it is many of our children and young adults have digestive tract issues. Tyler ate 6 foods for the first 12 years of your life.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I had kind of strict diet that I came up with, which was not really the best, but
that's right. But, pizza pockets.
Oh goodness. Yeah. Even sandwiches and all that kind of thing too. And chicken nugs. It's, it's pretty silly.
And so that in and of itself, creates difficulty being able to void. And so the more difficult that is, the more sensory there is. Therefore, if you have the choice to go through that sensory, having autism, or not going through it, you pretty much not go through that. The other thing is think about the warmth or coldness of the seat that's actually on the toilet. Mm-hmm. Sometimes turning them around and actually not facing forward, but maybe having something to read, or like I said, a Game Boy, something that was a distraction from that sensory, would help.
Reading
do that as well.
Reading is good in general. Bring the newspaper with you. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it says, do you use checklists for hygiene activities? Mm-hmm. How did you get independence on these activities?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I always have a little thing that says either brush your teeth or wash hair first and then do the body when you're in the shower or bathtub. And we actually did kind of have to do those things too. I do get a reminder saying, time to brush your teeth and all that kind of thing, which is of course normal for a lot of kids. And but I did have like a little checklist on what I need to do, just for little extra reminders.
Yeah. So what we did as a family, there's tools where you can have a picture and then the word next to it.
Oh yeah.
And we literally did, man. We had lists everywhere. So in the kitchen, it would be, this is how you get cereal, right? You take the milk out, get a bowl, you put it in. Same thing with bathroom routine on his mirror. We had, you have to get a towel, you have to start the water, you have to be able to wash in this order, brush your teeth. These are the things. And we broke it down. And then over time, what happened is he just remembered those patterns. And then he just knew when he walked into this environment, then that was his pattern. Now, where it got challenging is, when Tyler would go into the bathroom that looked this way, but then he would walk in when he was young to a different type of bathroom.
Whoops.
That pattern just goes away. Why? Because they're two completely different things. And, Tempo gives the example of when she was trying to figure out what these animals were, she would look at a German Shepherd and she would look at a lab. And to her, she would not be able to combine and say, wow, they're dogs. But when she looked at their nose, each dog kind of has the same shape of nose. And she knew then that those were dogs. So the same type of thing, Tyler, we had to expose all these disparate little, all these disparate things. And then in time, as he got older, he was able to combine all of those as well.
It was good. It was very good.
Which was really, really good.
Whose turn is it, by the way?
Go for it.
Want me to go for it? All right, this one. And by the way, we're doing number 3 here, which was effective techniques. So hopefully we're doing a good job. If not, please let us know. but no, I think this is fun. I really enjoy this kind of stuff. This one reads, Tyler, did teachers understand you? How did they treat you? Teachers treat me just like any other students. For the main teachers, because I remember, first grade teacher, I had the same teacher for both first and second grade. That's how much Mrs. Murray really enjoyed me. So it was fun. It was good. That goes to show you that even when you're in first grade, you can still be a good student. So much so that the teacher wants you for second grade. It was pretty nice. But yeah, they taught the class, and if I was having kind of a rough time, they actually let the parapro or the para educator to kind of help out with that. What they told me is like, think of the parapro as the teacher's assistant or your assistant. And I do remember a while ago saying, hey, how come other kids don't have their parapros? Because I was the kind of kid that wants to be very humble and didn't want to share my parapro. So basically she, my parapro, Mrs. Stewart, she says, I'm here for all students. I just really like to be around you. It was just a sweet kind of understanding kind of answer too for a younger child and stuff, saying that, hey, I can be here for all the students, but I like to be with you too.
Yeah, and I think both Tyler's mom and I, we did a lot of work with the school district. That did not come easy, and I know many parents struggle with this with their teachers, and realize what we did was we really tried to create a vested relationship with the school. And what I mean by vested is that we worked with the teacher, we worked with the speech therapist, the occupational therapist, the actual counselor, anyone that came in contact. We really worked hard to make sure everybody was on the same page about how Tyler occurred and what he needed. And so it was a lot of involvement, and I think that really helped, knowing that we were involved in that process. One of the other questions was, how do I convince my family that autism isn't something that he's going to grow out of? That's a big question. It kind of went with another question that I had here as well that I thought was really, really important which had to do with, doggone it. It was about family acceptance. Oh, that's right. And the diagnosis, that's what it was. Because there were family members that not only convinced my family member that he'll grow out of it, but also kind of being in denial. Boy, I'll tell you, that was me. I was completely in denial. I didn't want to believe that, my child, there was something wrong with him, that he was going to be different. Again, as I said at the beginning, it was like a bomb went off, and I didn't really handle it very well. And I have huge regrets over that as well. Here's what I would encourage you to do. What's it going to hurt? Use the reasoning of, hey, whether your child has autism or doesn't have autism, whether your child is delayed, whether they may not be delayed, as a father, as a mother, what's it going to hurt? Go get evaluated. I mean, the best part about it is that they would affirm that there's no cognitive delay or issues or those kinds of things. But if there are, why not get some help? I mean, the great part about an IEP is this individualized education plan, is if your child or young adult, and in some cases adults who finally get a diagnosis, all of a sudden they qualify for services, and why not qualify for services young so that you can get desensitized, so that you can have accommodations throughout school? And think about it in terms of, this is a 15-year journey plus, right? So if in these 15 years you can start early and get the accommodations that you need, ultimately that will allow them from kindergarten through 12th grade, maybe 3 years of the adult living program, to be able to gain that independence. But, the later that it goes on, just the more that you're going to have to make up. Mm-hmm. And I just highly, highly encourage you have to have those conversations. Well, what's it going to hurt? At least just go get the diagnosis. And if you're, having challenges affording it or health insurance or whatever, there's grant programs and other things to find diagnosis. But work with your school district. And if there's more than 1 or 2 people that are noticing this, it really is time to pay attention to that as well.
Think of it this way. Say an Olympic ski jumper. They start really young. Like age 6, and they keep working to keep jumping off that ski jump, and if you start later, it's not going to do so well, and so that's why we always encourage to start as young as possible, like around 6 or 5. For me, it was we got the help around age 5, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was 3 actually.
Or 3, 3. So so that's why.
And that's because his mom. I was in denial, right? But his mom's just like, something is wrong. We're going to go get this checked out, and thank goodness she did.
Absolutely. I got some other questions too. Does Tyler drive? Yes, I sure do. You bet you bet I do. So I drive. It took a while. My mom actually insisted that I start driving instead of taking the bus all the time. And we actually just started small. She basically says, Tyler, start driving. And we were kind of, even my dad and I, we were kind of wondering, am I really that ready? And she was like, yes, you're ready. And don't worry, I will be with you. And we're just going to start very small, going from parking lots, do that for a long while. And then very small towns, because we live in islands, and there's a lot of open spaces kind of thing too. So we just start very small and then work our way. And my dad taught me how to parallel park, which to this day I'm still pretty good at. so thank you very much for that. We just like everything. It's just all practice and train, and you'll get better and better, and then soon enough you'll be good enough to drive all the way to Dairy Queen for ice cream whenever you want it. That's the cool part about independence too. So be sure to look forward to that.
Well, and I think too, think about it in terms of our children with autism, or young adults, or adults in this case. They learn differently. And so like with Tyler, he could understand logically, right? If you look at the way roads are laid out, they have lines, right? There's white lines and yellow lines and dash lines and double lines. So if you can teach them the basics of lines, they understand visually how that works. And then you've got to work on the special case scenarios, which would be like emergency vehicles, things like that, they're just things that happen. People pull out in front of you. They don't follow the rules. They don't follow the lines.
Yeah, that's true. A bunch of unexpectancies that can occur. And that's the art of driving defensively as well.
Yeah.
I totally remember my mom when we were going over the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, and there's like a bunch of cones around it too, and mom was like so nervous. She's like, oh no, you're not prepared for this yet. So the one thing that she said, I totally remember this. She was like, Tyler, think of this as a video game.
that helps sometimes too. Yeah.
And visually too, because you can play a lot of racing games on the video games in the arcades or at home and all that kind of stuff. So that's what she says. Like, think of this as a video game. It's go time kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's when the mind kind of switches just a little bit too to go through the cones as safely as you could.
Well, another question for you, Tyler, that I think is a really, really good one would be, so you have, children, young adults, right, that are just home, right? They don't want to go anywhere.
Okay.
So how do you get them to the point to where they will go out and they will enjoy other activities? And I remember you kind of given the example of like pinball or
Yeah,
videos,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where sounds, and then also that goes into progression of foods, right? So how did you go from 6 foods to now having a wide palate, as well? So tell us how can these parents get their children out and doing those things
out of their comfort zones and trying these different things.
Yeah, that's without melting down and all those things. Yeah,
because that's what my question said too. Is Tyler still a picky eater? Well, I think that question goes for my mom. So she will definitely say, no, he is not.
Not now.
I mean, I can eat just about anything, but for whatever reason, I don't really like tomatoes that much. I guess that's just my personal preference too. But I can eat other stuff too. Asparagus and broccoli and fish. I can definitely eat a whole lot of stuff. The reason why is because we definitely did a lot of practicing on these scenarios. So not just on food, but also locations as well. We always have to start things very, very small. So for stars, getting out of the house. That's one start. Even if it is in your backyard. That's the one first step that you can do. Another thing is that the second step would be going out further from your backyard. Like if you live in a cul-de-sac, you can walk from your house to that house way over there, and then come back. Of course, with your parents too. You got to do that. But that's like a little example of how to go from one step to another. Backyards, and then at the end of the cul-de-sac or at the end of your property, and then going from that to the park where it's quiet and you're still farther away from home, but still has that same feeling of being in the backyard. It's quiet and you can hear the birds and the wind and all that kind of thing. And then jumping forwards, it goes from beginner to intermediate. What's a good example of intermediate? I would say probably the supermarket. That can be it's challenging, and I always say that it's hard but never impossible. So that's intermediate. What I would call expert would be the ultimate challenge, and that is a sports game. Whether it's baseball or football or basketball, you ever been to those places? Those things are crazy. They're like so loud, and you can even feel the rumbling of the floors. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun, but not so much for those who are just starting out and getting out there into the world. The secret into going from one thing to another is the mentality of wanting to go from one thing to another. Like there's actually I can guarantee that there's lots of kids that would love to go to an arcade at least just once, and they wanted to go there. They tried it, but it turns out to be an absolute failure. And it's like because an arcade, it's so much fun playing a whole bunch of games, and then as fun as it is, there's some instances where it can be just a bit too difficult, and that's why we gotta start from the bottom and work your way all the way up, and always it's okay to ask, saying, hey, do you feel ready to go to the arcade? and they can either say yes or say no, and it's a whole idea of taking the bull by the horn and giving it a try.
So it really is the progression, but then also having like touchstones, right? So touchstones meaning that maybe at home they play a pinball video game. Then maybe, it's the next thing, they get used to the ringing noises. Then it's this progression to where they can actually get to an arcade. And oftentimes, right, we have, a lot of our children love video games or the screen or whatever. So how can we start to make that progression? Now, the same thing happens with food as well. So maybe look at how you can take a food and examine the texture or the taste or whatever that may be, and see if you can gradually move to something else. Okay, so instead of a pizza pocket, maybe it's a burrito. Well, that's too big of a taste jump. But the texture would be.
Yeah, so when this is a great opportunity to talk about the textures as well. So here's a good example. Going from chicken nuggets to chicken strips.
Yeah,
it's got the same breading, and it tastes like chicken. So why don't you give that a good go? Chicken strips are a lot bigger than the chicken nuggets. So and you might really like it. And then it goes from that to try. So it goes from that to let's say we try fish and chips. It's got the same texture. Same breading. It looks like something else, but also can taste a bit differently, and that can very well be a good opportunity to try these new things. It's always those little things. What does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it even look like too? It just goes from one thing to another. Because I remember thinking that that cheeseburgers was like the worst thing imaginable, and way back in the day until it was like 14, I believe. Then I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever had. Yeah, take me to a all-American place, and we can shout out on this great stuff.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting because so Tyler's produced a program called Questions About Autism and Answers That Work. And we actually have, this is such a big topic on how to make the transition and such. And there's actually over 100 hours of programming tips, tricks, those kinds of things that will take you step by step on how to help your child be able to eat more than 6 foods, or how to help your child go through hygiene, or other things as well that we're going to continue to cover in that. So if that's something that you feel like would help you, we'll have a link posted. You're welcome to click on it. The other thing that we're going to do too is we actually are starting a coaching program. And so just like we're going through now, but we're just not able to get to all of the questions, we're going to break into smaller groups, and included in that charge for Questions About Autism Answers That Work, you're actually going to be able to ask those live questions each week in smaller groups, so we can help you with the individual situations that you have. And again, all that's private and confidential. And again, we're not doctors or therapists or those kinds of things, but we are definitely a family that has helped Tyler create a framework for himself that allows him now to live independently. There was a high likelihood that wasn't going to happen. And, we feel compelled to make sure that we can help each and every one of you do the same thing and realize that your child's going to have and does have right now a unique ability. So when you can leverage that and learn how to leverage it, learn how to find it, get through the sensory, start dealing with these issues through independence, they have a really, really good shot at developing of that independence. So, it's kind of that whole thing, right? Pay now or pay later. And the key is to start now, because if you've got this 15-year journey or 7-year journey or whatever that may be, make sure that whether it's ourselves or someone else, get some help on that, get some coaching, and that will really help you through that. Another thing I just have to mention on food, though, is silverware. We had a comment about drinking through a straw, and a person melts down, or a young person melts down when you try to drink through a straw. Tell us about silverware, Tyler. And again, real quick on that. Actually, you're taking a drink. Maybe I will. No. But this is a really important deal. Super important, because this could actually create a breakthrough for you in helping your child eat other things.
No, I was gonna say that I didn't really like metallics or those metal silverware, that kind of stuff. Back then. I mean, I can totally do it today, but back then it was just weird. It's just like all metally and cold, to the lips. It just felt weird to me. So that's that's why a lot of the times I would just prefer my teeth to dig into that silverware instead of wrapping my lips around it. Sounds so weird when I say it out loud, but yeah, it was true. I actually prefer wooden silverware, especially with chopsticks, and And I learned how to use chopsticks at an early age, and even to this day, I still eat teriyaki with chopsticks. It's like, take the fork out. I want, take the fork out. I just want to, eat it with chopsticks, because it's made of wood, and it just felt good to me as well. And plastic is also pretty good too in itself, but I prefer wood.
Yeah. Well, and so watch your child, right? If they're eating like this, where they don't want their lips to touch because they honestly just can't deal with it, you got to substitute that out, and that could create a real breakthrough for you.
Yeah, it's always those little tiny observations here and there, attention to detail of observing your child.
Yeah, and I think another one too that's come up is haircuts. Like how to help your child have a haircut. This is a rough one. There is a formula, so here's the formula on how to get your child to get a haircut.
Well, I can tell you this right now. I definitely do need a haircut right now. So
That's right.
Perfect. So this is the perfect question for that. But yeah. So basically, long and the short is we did it in different stages. Like, I didn't really like the buzzer for a long time. It had that weird noise, and it just didn't feel right, vibrating against my skin. It was just just a nightmare and all kind of thing, and didn't like that. So instead, we actually used the clippers that kind of just cut my hair, and we actually kind of negotiated with the barber, saying, is it all right if we just do clippers for, just the scissors for haircuts, and he or she accepted, and went from there. I think I was like a teenager to kind of just more get accepted with the buzzer too, and we practice on the buzzer too, like feel it on the palm. It's not too bad. Just keep practicing about what the buzzer feels like, and then kind of just go against the face, and then as soon the part of the hair, kind of thing where there's not a lot of hair back there, and that's how we went from clippers to buzzer to someone dunking your head in the sink and washing your hair,
which was a big step for sure. So really, just in recap, you start with the scissors, and by the way, it's not the cut, because that sound of the part does not work. It's slow, so there's really not a lot of sound to it. You've got to work with your barber or stylist to be able to do that. Then as they get desensitized, you can actually do the snips. Then the snip does go from the buzzer if they need that. I don't know if they call it buzzer. I guess they call it
razor.
Razor, right? And they can, touch it, and then progressively it can actually go. Ears are very, very difficult. You might want to just cut around the ears for a little bit, and then ultimately get that buzzer. So that's the secret to haircuts,
Absolutely.
And it just kind of takes what it takes, as well.
So in due time, you'll be getting something simple to more spiky or bangs and any other kind of hairstyles you can think of. So be sure to look forward to that. Be able to be adventurous.
Yeah.
So here's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Here's a good one. That's someone asked. It says, Tyler, how do you stay calm while you're searching for words? That's a great question. I'm very glad you asked that. So I wasn't that intense when it comes to stuttering, that kind of stuff. I wasn't trying to talk as fast as I could. I was more like the pauser, I guess you could say, if that's even a term.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. It's, just pausing, trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, and then just to say it when it comes to my head, that kind of thing. But yeah, those type of things. It was pretty hard. It was, as much as I want to talk as fast as I could, I just couldn't. I was more pausing, and just, the way I remained calm was just, simply just turn to the sides, try to figure out what it was, and then get back onto action, that kind of thing. It's like, wait, what's my line again? Think about it real quick. Oh yes, hello, that kind of stuff. It's a simple kind of hello greetings, kind of thing too. That sometimes I feel like I have to think real hard and all that kind of thing, and just do that kind of stuff. So the way I stayed calm was just simply just turn to the sides, try to figure out what it was, not to panic, and then when I feel totally ready, I just go back, lights, camera, action, take two, and say what you need to say.
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting as well is that for a lot of years, Tyler would actually just recite lines in movies as well. So he would try to pick out what he thought was the most socially appropriate string of words to use. And so literally for years, he would just quote, movie quotes basically. And that was his first way to start forming language. And the other thing too is he would use the mirror, and he would look at himself trying to form different kinds of letters and words and expressions. In fact, there is two fantastic, it's 1 hour or a couple of hours just specifically on forming words, how Tyler formed words in questions about autism, answers that work, as well as just speech in general and developing speech. It's a really, really big deal because, speech is social, and really understanding those social interactions. And in that program, Tyler, it's fascinating because he talks about how even his expressions, like he would be happy as far as try to talk and be happy at the same time. But inside he'd be really, really sad and depression. And this was, as a dad, one of the most challenging things to deal with is actually, when Tyler wrote his book, I found out things about him that I never knew. And that to me in a lot of ways was devastating because I didn't really realize that Tyler was going through the things that he was going through. And really the creation of Population One was a desperate cry for help because because I was a writer. I've been a writer ever since kindergarten and first grade, and I'm still kind of stuck on that. Yeah, and it was a desperate cry for help because he was depressed. He greatly he needed acceptance, and he wrote the entire book so people would understand what it's like to have autism. And it started out really as just to have his class of 500 or 600 kids just be able to read it and come to an understanding of what it was like to have autism and who he was as a person. And unfortunately, it actually didn't get published. It actually didn't get released until like the week after you graduated and went into the adult living program, which I know was tough for you.
Yeah, that was pretty tricky. It's like I was too late.
Yeah.
It was what it was, but at the same time, I was grateful that it actually sells. So that's always something to be excited about. It sells, but except it was a much different outcome and all that kind of thing. Yeah. I think small. I think I'm definitely a small thinker. It's like when I always have this interesting, the thinking process where it's like, do something so big for something so small, that kind of thing. I've always been like that. Even today, I'm definitely like that. It's like I would drive a Porsche all the way to Iowa just to get a zombie burger. But yeah, it's that kind of thinking that's always been a part of me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but no. Just be prepared for a different outcome.
Yeah, and I think too, it really is. Tyler will describe it as he instead of some of the effect of like instead of affecting 700 people, you've now affected. I think your book has sold just over 110,000 copies now. Something that's been on the Amazon bestseller list for I think the last 4 years in the autism Asperger's category. But that's the other thing that I think is so extraordinary about you, is that you are so gracious about it. Tyler's never wanted it to be about him, but really about being able to help others. And I just, as a dad, right, I'm humbled just to be able to help him in this and help other parents be able to understand as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even through, all the regrets, that you have. And I get, right, as a parent, sometimes you're just hanging on, for dear life. When your child is regularly melting down and about ready to get kicked out of school and headbutting other kids and biting and dealing with, anger issues even in high school and all of that, it's easy to just want to give up. And I would just encourage you as a parent or a grandparent, you just gotta hang in there, because you just never know how it's all going to turn out. And I guarantee you, if you just continue to work and continue to learn, you just have to keep going, because some amazing things can happen as a result of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're still on number 4, social acceptance.
Yeah.
And one thing, one good question I got is how do you teach eye contact?
Huge. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really big. Yeah. I kind of had some trouble with eye contact. It just feels weird to just look at someone's eyes and all kind of stuff, and just listening or talking. The one thing that sounds silly, but I thought eye contact was more of a romantic thing, that kind of thing. And that's I generally thought of that too. It sounds weird, but that's why I kind of refuse the eye contact. For me, anyway. I feel like it's more of a romantic thing. Like I've seen in movies and TVs and all that kind of thing. They use eye contact, and I'm like, I don't want romance right now. This is gross. so that's why, to me, eye contact was a thing. But the truth of the matter is that's not the case. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can actually be a friendly kind of thing. So I learned how eye contact can be used socially acceptable. Like I even see 2 friends talking to each other, and they use eye contact as well, and a good appropriate distance. That's also very important too. That you're in a good position where you're not too close or not too far, but just right, that kind of thing. So it was pretty neat. I remember distinctly remember taking a college class where they talk about different etiquettes in different cultures, and a lot of cultures they actually have a thing where you don't make eye contact to a police officer, and the reason why is because that's just out of respect, or basically someone that's like a high. A high person, like for example, a king or a police officer or a chief, chief of police, that kind of stuff. It's just a high authority. That's what it was. Don't make eye contact because that just means that you're challenging them, basically, and that's just different cultures and stuff. And I kind of looked at this and I was thinking that's actually pretty cool. Just understanding why. Why they want to use eye contact in that. And I learned that in the States, it's okay to use eye contact with a police officer, because that means you're fully focused, paying attention, and that you're not ignoring what the police officer is saying. So it's always important to kind of just look at these scenarios and understand why we don't use those eye contacts, and it's okay to just talk about that. And kids, feel free to express why you don't do eye contacts, even when you're just even when you're not making eye contact. It's okay to explain why. Is it because of the romance thing? Is it because it feels awkward? Is it because you're afraid of staring at someone without blinking? There's lots of different ways too, and sometimes even just blinking properly too. It can also be a good strategy to work on as well.
Yeah, and I think there's also if you go to autismworks.com, there's free resources there, and we actually have social stories on eye contact, personal space. Here again, this is where video works out great, because when a teacher or the speech therapist or OT we'll take the video of appropriate and inappropriate space. It really, really helps. Again, just be thinking about visual. What can you do, to support that visually? And since we're on the topic of social interactions, so, as you grew, teenager, now a young adult, how did you, become more social? And this is something, by the way, that Todd is still working on, social interactions. But how did you increase your social interactions?
I think when I was a teen, I went to this counselor named John, and what John would actually do is I think once every month or so he would get other kids my age get together and simply have a pizza party and a video game party kind of thing. And we practice this because when you're at the set party, the social interaction becomes much more natural because we have something in common. We like pizza and we like playing video games. And like a good competition too. I was those fighting games was pretty fun, because I like competition. I even like to go to the laser tag and totally just go all Vietnam on these guys. It's pretty funny, but it's true. With John, we kind of just talked about these social interactions, and instead of just preaching about what to do, we actually just figure out what we all have in common, and then let the social interaction kind of just become more natural, and that kind of thing. And so that's what we kind of did at that time. And we also had good friends in our community too, as well. I got a good friend that's in the island that's really good at playing guitar, and he's like one of the biggest Sonic the Hedgehog fanatics I've known. That's when it comes from being good acquaintances to being good friends to feeling like you can be your more goofier self and all that kind of thing too. Yeah. Because I totally remember watching about to watch that movie with him, and we even had color coordinated outfits to kind of clothing. It's only based on colors, and even running like the blue hedgehog and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. It was just a fun moment for us to be unleashed and just have fun with one another too.
Well, I think that's the takeaway, right? Realize that the social interactions amongst our children, young adults, and adults with autism, it's going to be different. It's not like they're going to be hanging out at a cocktail party or hanging out, somewhere and have this typical social interaction. Hang tight just one second. I'll get to that in just a second.
Well, we can. Well, it is the same topic of friends. Anyway.
Yeah, totally. We'll get there.
Absolutely.
So that the social groups, when we would watch them as parents, it's kind of interesting because it's like, here's all these, young adults that had autism, and they basically would just kind of sit together and not really interact or talk at all, and by the way, they're perfectly fine doing that, but they would have a common point, which would be a video game or a pizza. And John would coach them on how to have meaningful conversations. And then in time, this was the other big thing is, there's a buddy program at school. So if you can combine, your child with another person who really is helping them and coaching them and having those conversations with them, that's really going to help develop those social skills. And then the other thing is that there's just a whole, I think there's 2 or 3 videos specifically on developing friends and having social interactions. And Tyler talks about appropriate and inappropriate relationships, which are a really, really big deal. And then this is the question too, is how can I help my 22-year-old son make more friends? The answer is yes, get involved when maybe they're out of school. There's a website called Meetup, meetup.com, and there's all sorts of meetup groups about different hobbies or different things that they would be interested in. Perhaps it's community, whether that be a community center, or maybe that is virtual or online right now. There's games that are available, that are live and with other groups that they may or may not feel comfortable with. A lot of it is going to be dependent on, what your 22-year-old or what your young adult is very interested in. And this is part of finding and identifying that unique ability. But social skills, again, it just takes time, to do that. But constantly putting them in different surroundings. It's not like our children with autism are going to have massive amounts of friends. If they have one or two good friends that understand them for who they are, any of us, whether we be typically developing or what maybe is, we try to stay away from labels, but neurotypical.
Labels are more for cancer.
People, exactly. That's all we could really hope for, as parents. And at the end of the day, that's really what we want for our children, is just for them to be happy. And we really hope that those friends and those social interactions bring them happiness, but also too realize, and I respect that Tyler is also just perfect being on his own, too. And again, having social interactions, but sometimes that gets a little exhausting, but then going and having his time as well to be able to unwind. So
I guess it's kind of like one of those things where it's like one moment I'm introvert and the next moment I'm extrovert.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like a little thing. Here's one I get quite a bit. Yeah. Does Tyler have a girlfriend? Unfortunately, I do not. Cue the sad
or
music.
Fortunate. No.
Yeah.
No.
Cue the sad music and imagine me eating a whole jug of ice cream. No. It's it's just a choice, that kind of thing. It's I'm just not ready yet.
Yeah, and I think too, those relationships kind of do just happen organically. Mm-hmm. And the right time will come, for Tyler to be able to have a girlfriend, and really it's having someone that now it's not that Tyler doesn't get a lot of offers or solicitations or those kinds of things, but it's also important, too, that there's that compatibility. And so, we talk to Tyler a lot about functional relationships and dysfunctional relationships. What makes for a functional relationship? Mm-hmm. What makes for a dysfunctional? We look at different comparisons of relationships. So I'd encourage you to do that and make sure as well. And we talk about that actually in Questions About Autism Answers at Work, about relationships too. So I'd encourage you, if you're struggling with those things, that really would be able to help you.
All right. As well. Still on the topic of social acceptance, this one reads, Tyler, how do I keep up in conversations? Do you have issues with this?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Mm-hmm. Conversations are actually it goes from a chore to being a whole lot of fun. Actually, they're fun for me because I get to understand a little bit more of people, and I'm really fascinated with people. Ever since I was very little, when I realized that people start talking in words, and I literally just go up to them and hold them by the jaw and figure out how are they making words.
Yeah, it would.
And then I was almost semi-desperate to figure out how to talk, and in due time, with a lot of practice and patience, we managed to do that, and to keep up in conversations. The one thing that I would like to encourage, this is my Tyler tip, is basically to simply listen. Just look him at the eye. Blink when it's necessary, like every so often, not too much and not too little, but just right, and simply just look at them, understand what they're talking about, and listen, and give a response when it's appropriate, and also important, answer questions when giving the right time, kind of thing too. Mm-hmm. Like a simple conversations kind of involved to saying, hey Tyler, what do you think of that? or what do you think of this? And give your honest opinion as well. of course, when it comes to honest opinions, you never want to be rude or for something you dislike or anything like that. Just simply say, yeah, I wonder about this. Can you explain it more? Personally, I think it's weird. like even for one thing, I don't really like dinosaurs that much, and I know that a majority of people really do. And I'm pretty open by saying, yeah, I don't really like dinosaurs that much. They scare the pants on me. They really do. I've got deinophobia, so which is a real thing, by the way. And kind of just be open about it, but still kind of make it cool and casual kind of way too. Even if you don't like a certain movie, I just simply say, I think it's kind of weird.
Those social cues didn't come overnight, right? I mean, this has been years in the making.
Exactly.
As far as understanding humor, idioms, those kinds of things. And so, Tyler,
we did talk about jokes and the idioms and what counts as a joke and what counts as not sort of joke, but just mean and that kind of thing. And that was something we had to figure out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it did. And again, a lot of it is just, as I said at the opening, it's putting our children in all sorts of different situations so that they start understanding, and then you can play that back. Video, again, is just a fantastic tool. This is a really good question is, how do you explain autism to other adults?
Yeah,
so, they ask, I mean, this is a really, really good one, and I think this can help. So how would you explain autism to someone else, like what it's like to have autism?
It says to Jody.
I know. That's why I want you to answer it.
Okay, fine. I'll answer it. So how do I explain autism to adults? I would simply just say that autism is a lot like everyone else, except their brains are wired just slightly differently, and it comes to a conclusion that there's so many good things going on inside the head. The only small parts of the brain happen to be the social areas, and that can take a lot of work. It's like how do I put this? A small area of social skills, but everything else is just ginormous. So much potential. The way I would put it, in Frank is basically saying, so much potential, just need some help showing that potential. So much potential with that needs some help showing it off, that kind of thing. And it can be kind of lonesome too, because they got so much to share. They just need someone to hold them by the hand and saying, I got you. People need you. So let's work on this together.
Yeah, our children are in there. Whether they can speak or not speak, there's brilliance, absolute brilliance. And for some of us, no matter how profoundly our children are affected by autism, the key is to find that unique ability. And once we do that and we start encouraging that and leveraging that, our children, it gains, it increases their confidence, and their confidence then helps them to be able to engage in others. But oftentimes as parents, right, our own confidence is under attack. We get advice from doctors and therapists and school teachers and all these things. And by the way, all that advice is good. As parents, we need all that advice. We need that professional advice. But at the end of the day, we know what's best for our children. And you have to really, really get that. We know what's best. It's important to take all of this information, including information that you're learning now from somebody who actually has autism, and a family member who's helped create the framework of success for him. But Tyler is no more or no less special than your child or grandchild or the person that you care for. This just happens to be Tyler's story. But if you apply the same principles that we applied, but most importantly, that Tyler applied in his life, this really is about Tyler's drive. And I know that your children have the same drive as well. We just have to unlock that. And
absolutely unlock that. Yeah, that's a good analogy on that.
Yeah, and I get asked this question a lot, right? Which is, what are my biggest regrets? And the biggest regrets that I have is really trying to fix, my son. And, you make the best decisions that you can at the time that you make them. But you look back on that and you're just like, man, if I would have just earlier really saw him for who he was and really loved him for exactly who he was and who he wasn't, our relationship would be much stronger, than it is today. I wouldn't have, had him again. Tyler said I grew up in a military family, and I was expected that, I ate what was put in front of me and I didn't leave the table until then. Well, I enforced those same rules, with Tyler, but he honestly didn't have the ability to eat those things. And I would never do that again.
Nowadays I can eat eggs without gagging them.
Yeah. And those were real challenges. I wouldn't have, there were times that, I thought, well, Tyler's just throwing a temper tantrum or those things. And, I punished him accordingly. I would never do that. Those are really, really, difficult things to live with. And we can't go back and change that. But, one of the things I really realize is that our children with autism, in fact, is quite the opposite. They actually want to help. They want to please us. They have intuition that you wouldn't believe. That for me, are some of the huge regrets, along with many others. And my encouragement, to you as a parent is that we are going to have regrets. We oftentimes just need to continue to look forward and see what we can create, now as well. And I just encourage you to continue to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good. This question reads, Tyler, did you have a hard time thinking your parents loved you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, just going through with that other one. And my answer is, I've always known that my parents love me. They show it. They tell me every day. And, I've always, they were so open about that, even just showing that through appreciation of gifts at random occurrences. It's not a specific day or a specific month. They just give me gifts because they love me. And I've always been appreciative of that. And I was a young kid. I didn't really, gain a income, and I couldn't go to the store or the toy store to try to show my appreciation, that kind of thing. But I did to show that I did love them by simply giving them flowers and also just have the courage to tell them that I love them back. But yeah, no, it was easy. I knew my parents and my family in general truly loved me, and just treated me like any other kid. That's the main importance, that kind of thing too. It's like, yeah, I'm just like everyone else. Except I just need some help on certain areas. Like I said before, there are no limits, only adjustments. And my parents haven't changed since.
And I think too, from a parent's perspective, is oftentimes, we're desperate for the love of our child, and we're desperate to know what our child is thinking, and what they, what they need. And
I was desperate to show what I've been thinking.
Yeah. And he just didn't have the capability. And, one of the, I get emotional talking about it, but, maybe you can tell the story. One of the very first things that,
very first things
Tyler wrote, as well. That was a real, it's really challenging as a parent, and maybe you can tell the story.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important.
Yeah, the first thing I've written, I believe it was in first grade, is it's two little words in red crayon. It was "help me," and that was basically it, all caps. And the reason why is because I didn't get into specifics. I that was the hardest I was ever thinking at the time, was try to get those words out, and that simply helped me. Didn't care what it was. I just need some help, like trying to fit in with the other kids, trying to get my words out, not in written form, but in speaking form, and help to try to figure out how to break my secret schedules and try to just try to be flexible on day to day, because every day can be so chaotic, and you gotta be prepared for that.
Yeah. So, that's a challenge as a parent, because your child needs the help, but you don't know how to give it to them, and
that part can be quite challenging. A lonesome journey. I always believe this one thing, and that's when it comes to anything, it's hard but never impossible.
Yeah.
That goes for a lot of things. Whether you're trying to figure out how to be a race car driver, or trying to figure out how to do computer animation, it's hard but never impossible to achieve.
And that's it. And so it's just a lot of trial and error. I mean, for every 10 things we tried, one worked, 9 of them failed. And, that gets really frustrating. But, you just keep at it, and just know that your kids do love you. And they know that you're trying your hardest to love them. And they know whether they can talk or can't talk, or they can, or whether they express it a certain way or don't. That's something that just always remember as a parent. And in the end, it's all worth it for sure.
Absolutely. There's always, it's all worth it. It's it's a journey part that I've always been into. Even today, I really enjoy the journey, but it's all definitely worth it. Do we have any more questions?
Literally, literally we have hundreds, but we probably need to wrap this up.
It's even current time, we only got 5 minutes or something like that. So going for 100 minutes here. So the last question that we're going to do for today is something kind of nice. It says, Tyler, what kind of things do you like to do?
And I think, this is important because, just going through quickly, here are some of the things that allow you to get out of just being in the house and playing video games. What are those specific things that you like to do that, really helped you, be able to get out of the house?
Absolutely. Yeah. Tyler, what kind of things do you like to do? Yeah, well, one thing I really like to do is go out and play pinball. And I mentioned in the second book, Becoming One, I literally dedicated a whole chapter to it. And the reason why I did that is not because of pinball being one of my favorite things to do, but because the whole idea of pinball is one of the ultimate stimulus challenges. Think of it. Just think about it. A table is they got a whole bunch of lights here and there. that blink around. The noise of the pinball machine going, making all these different sounds, and also that really annoying that's clank that sound. So when you get a free game and all that kind of thing, it's so unexpected and so loud, and sometimes it can make you jump. But that's one of my favorite things to do, and I didn't do this overnight. I just kind of chose to practice of how to play pinball, not just on a skill sense, but also on a stimulus sense. And the more I played pinball, the more I got used to the sounds and played more and more until I figured, man, this game is awesome.
Well, and I think there's a lesson to be learned there, right? Because you can start out just with playing ball in the yard, a small ball. Then maybe it's additional sensory. So really look at how you can take a look at what your child or your young adult really enjoys doing, and then try to create these crossovers into things that are potentially in the real world, right? Or outside or in the city or other types of environments. And yes, and again, we talk about that in the Questions About Autism Answers That Work program, about how to, help you do that. And the other thing is I totally apologize for not being able to get to all of the questions. I mean, literally, there are hundreds of questions.
They're really good. We look at
just
all of them.
they're extraordinary. And so I'd encourage you to take advantage of the coaching program that we're going to do every week. We're going to do it with multiple small groups. We're going to answer the questions that you have. It's just one fee for the life. We're going to be doing this for a long time. At some point, we're probably going to move for new people that purchase the program in the future. Probably will be a monthly thing. But for the people, who are purchasing it now, it's just one time, and you'll be in for life. And a lot of this is just because, we want to be able to help. We want to be able to serve. And Tyler has a group of people that help him. Tyler has a woman that works with him. She's his PR person, and does an absolutely incredible job doing outreach and work with each person that comes into contact with Tyler. I mean, there are hundreds of emails that come in some cases per day. There's tens of thousands, literally, of comments and interactions that happen on social media. There's millions of people that have been exposed to Tyler's message, and it's not. We don't say that because it's like, oh, hey, look at us. That's not the intent. The intent is we have just a tremendous amount of resources to be able to share. And so I highly encourage you, whether it's purchasing the Questions About Autism or Answers That Work program, whether it's going to the free YouTube channel, whether it's, getting access to the free Facebook group. It's got, 7,000 people, that are in it now. Just get a support system. Get somebody that you can really rely on, help, get advice from, and make sure that you surround yourself with those people. And we'd love to be a small part of that to the extent that we can help and serve you. So we really, hope to be able to see you on future webinars. We'd love to see you inside of the coaching program and inside of Questions About Autism. It's basically, 100 hours of similar things like this, kind of the Netflix of autism that will answer the vast majority of these questions, that we've received. So again, I just appreciate so much the time that you've spent. And I genuinely appreciate the work that you're doing with your children and your young adults and adults that have autism, and your grandkids and all of that. I think it's just extraordinary that you took the time, over the last, 90 minutes to really show that support. So hats off, to you.
Absolutely.
As well.
I was going to finish the question here. It says, what kind of things? It's plural, and not just pinball.
Sorry, babe.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking, it's pinball is one of them. I like to write. I like to write stories sometimes. That's why I got 2 books right here. So I enjoy writing. I enjoy reading. I'm a big avid reader every so often. I like to snowboard. I like to drive. Because a long time ago I wanted to be a race car driver, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I also really like to travel too. So when appropriate, I will be happy to travel nationwide.
That's right. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get an opportunity to see you at those speaking events as well as those get back on, or online for any of the other Tyler's presentations that he's doing online across the country, and hopefully live here, as well, when things get back to a little bit normal at the time of the taping of this webinar.
Yeah, but I've got hope.
yeah, without a doubt. That a lot of requests for sure, but still not,
at the moment.
I guess what they say, still in lockdown. For many.
It's only temporary.
Yeah, which is a whole another conversation in of itself. Is how do we help our children? Yeah. In fact, that's actually there's new content added to Questions About Autism Answers That Work every week, and that's one of them. Is how to help your child
in these
deal with those things. And
with
change in
situations.
routine.
Change in routine, basically. So yeah, cool. That's all I got. Yeah, guys, I am looking forward to driving back to home and read because it's the weekend.
Without a doubt, and decompressing a little bit. So thank you again,
Yeah.
and we'll look forward to connecting with you next time.
Yeah, until next time, I hope to see you again. See ya.